It's a great job, but it's a real art, a balance of creative and the business side of music. In it, there's an approval process from the artist, from the manager, from the publisher, from the labels, but you have to be sort of an ultimate codependent worker and find out what pleases everybody.
The biggest thing is, too, is that for publishers and master owners, the internet isn't new. It's 20 years old, you know, and content isn't new. It's just that we're finally creating specifically for the internet rather than it ending up on the internet. And so a lot of people are viewing television as, you know, a once-twice situation, and it ends up on Hulu or whatever else. So everything goes to the internet at some point. You can either buy it on the internet, view it on the internet, stream it, download it, whatever. And so a lot of publishers and master owners are no longer looking at the internet as this sort of secondary medium where you can get away with, you know, getting sort of indie fees. They're like, no, it lives forever and you can view it as many times as you want. So obviously that should be accounted for. I think with any relationship, trust is obviously, you know, the first thing that you need. And I'll take music from anybody, but I need to know that you know what you're talking about, because I'm trusting you when I pitch the music to the people who hired me, the producers, the editors, the director, whoever, that I can clear it quickly, that you have both sides, you have publishing, you have master, or you know who has the other sides. You know that there's no samples, it's not a cover, there's no side artists. There's a ton of things to consider that if you don't know that, I don't know that, and I'm not coming back to you if I get screwed, because that could affect my relationship with the people I work for. So obviously, if you don't do your homework, you know, there's no reason for me to trust you. So if you know all that information, you have it in your metadata, which we'll talk about, you know, and everything else, then I know you know what you're talking about. There's not a surprise writer for 2% that nobody knows where they live, you know, and you have to track somebody down in a basement, you know, which has happened. So, you know, you need to know that kind of stuff. So for me, there's about 50 companies that I definitely go to who do pitch music full-time, and they're amazing people, and I know that I can trust them. And, you know, major labels, major publishers, all the rest of it. But I do use artists that I've met at conferences. I do use artists that I've met in line at the bathroom. So, you know, like, as long as you know what you're talking about and present yourself in a way that I trust, and then we prove, you know, to each other that that works out, then I'll come back.
You got to listen, you know, and these connectors, they already know, you know, how we want music delivered, how we want information delivered, what types of files that need to be sent, and those are kind of things that you guys should know too. So, you know, when we're first maybe temping a movie, or if I'm first temping a movie, you know, MP3s are fine with all the information on it, but then eventually you got to know that later on, when we final mix it and your song is definitely in the movie, that you'll need a mastered wave version of it. And then you gotta know that sometimes things will come up where we'll need an instrumental or the vocal only. There are all these kind of little things that, you know, will pop up, and you guys should be prepared for that, for those scenarios.
It's not enough to just make great music. You have to be able to figure out how to get it to people, and you have to figure out how to get it to us or other people in the way that we want it. For example, yes, you made a whole record, but you know what? Why don't you pick your best 2 songs that you think would be commercially viable in some sort of context? And I don't mean there's a movie called Fire and you have a song called Fire and you think, oh, that's perfect. Like, that nail on the head thing hardly ever works. So, and I hear this all the time. So you guys got to be smarter about the way you perceive things. Also, you know, I have this conversation with songwriters, and again, you don't want to affect craft, but if you want to write for this medium, write not specific about a guy named Charlie, right?
Yeah.
Take the same sentiment about what you feel about Charlie and make it in a much more anthemic situation so that it can play into a lot of different fields. I'll give you an example. I worked with a band for Bowling for Soup, and they had all these kind of funny lyric type songs. And then I said, dude, why don't you guys write me a record? Like, write me a record that I can use. And they wrote a song called Greatest Day. You know, this is going to be the greatest day. And so I said, watch what happens with this record. And I put the thing, when I worked at Jive, in 10 different film and TV opportunities. So much so that then all of a sudden they got a lot of traction. And by the end of that year, we put out a record at the end of the year called Bowling for Soup Goes to the Movies, because they had gotten so many placements, and we put a record together just for the Christmas holidays for all the stuff they had placed. And that record was used in prom scenes and in wedding scenes and all sorts of upbeat, fun things. So, I sometimes will say to the songwriters or artists I work with, give me one for me. And then back to the negatives of things, of why you have to be better prepared. You know, one example for me is when I was at Def Jam, I was working on a Universal movie and they needed cues for a movie, and so I said to the A&R guy, I said, hey, these things are going to sound great. Are these cleared? You got these all good? Yeah, no problem. They loved them in the movie calls me like, yeah, we want to license those two tracks, 20 grand each. I call the guy up, I said, dude, we're in. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, let me call you back. Like 2 days later, I'm trying to get a hold of the guy. He's like, yeah, that producer of that track, I can't find him. He goes, so I'm going to remake the song. And so I said, all right, I won't tell the company for a day, but that's all you got. And then by the time he got it back to me 2 days later, they had moved on, right? And so it's like, here was a great opportunity for an artist that was about to be a big artist now, but a year ago, he could have gotten that pop, you know, had they had it together better. So that, and this is a major label A&R situation, right? So if that level happens, then think about what you guys have to do, and you have to be better than the next guy, because the competition is fierce to get songs in. And, you know, again, it's not like they're all great revenue generators, but you're looking for any exposure you can to get to that next level.
So just to be clear on what we always will be looking for, like once, you know, if we have a couple of songs that work for a scene, we will contact you. And what you should have prepared is the name of the song, artist, all the writers, the publishers, you know, performance rights societies, you know, the label, if you know you want that as well, and then you know, I don't know if people still fax, but like fax number and then email. Those are different ways that we'll be able to contact you, and those are kind of things that your ducks should be, you know, in a row before you send all of that stuff. If you're in the writing process right now, you know, general lyrics tend to work well. Also, you know, variety in it, like a verse, chorus, a bridge, exactly. And then, you know, long intros are good sometimes.
Good builds.
Good builds. If you have a song, don't fade it out. Have it end.
Yeah, hard out.
You want to hard out so that like it'll be more, you know, conducive to bumpers or on TV or in film or wherever, you know. What else?
Yeah, no 80s fades.
So, yeah, exactly.
No, yeah.
Kill me.
Song production's important because we track it.
Yeah.
Because how we're going to position it possibly to pitch to our director, producer for that scene.
And don't pitch anything unless you have an AIFF file or a WAV file. I mean, I'm going to echo what JoJo was saying before. It's so important. I couldn't go forward with a couple of placements because there was like pops in the background. They loved the song, but we didn't have a high quality version. We couldn't move forward with it. And I felt terrible for the songwriter, but don't pitch it if you don't have it. You know?
Yeah, the audio content is very, very important. I mean, we don't sync off of live gigs. We go and do our research at live gigs, but we sync off of the MP3. And the audio quality has to be absolutely perfect because that's going into the film or the TV series or the digital or whatever we're working on the ad.
It really is a range of things that we, you know, have to deal with and wrangle in.
Right.
And I would just say, don't give up. Like,
Yeah, don't give up.
the fact that your song was even considered and like the song is good enough to be on our radar is like a silver lining. And just because we don't use it then, you know, we might use it. Heck, I've used shit that was like 2 years sent to me 2 years ago.
We'll keep it on our radar.
Yeah,
sure.
we'll keep it on our radar. Certain people, you know, divide the songs up different ways, but you know, there's like the love scene songs and the, you know, the car chase songs or the, you know, I'm Mad songs and all that stuff.
The music libraries have become very aggressive in the last couple of years. The labels and publishers a lot of times have priced themselves out of situations. Libraries have come in and filled an amazing gap. And there's a few, you know, music libraries that I use, go-to players, where I know I can just say, okay, I'm going to take this amount of music and I'm going to be able to pay them X because I have that relationship. Those are also good sources for you to contact and say, hey, do you need any of this type of music? Because I can create that for you. And then you have a partnership deal with them as far as they own X amount and you own whatever Y amount. So libraries are really today another great connector for us because a lot of times we don't have budgets for big songs, so you'll just need things that just can fill spaces that work well creatively in the process. And libraries used to be, oh yeah, that's that canned music. Well, today they've gotten sophisticated as the labels, I said, opened up a wide gap and weren't smart enough in their licensing way that they overcharge for things because the pressure on the licensing departments becomes that much greater as sales of records plummet. Remember, labels don't really get a piece of touring and merch unless it's a 360 with an act. So the pressure on film and TV departments becomes that much greater, and certain big labels want to keep a threshold of price, and they would rather pass on a number of tracks at a small price because it's not of a certain level. And a lot of times it doesn't even go to the managers. The managers don't even get to know about it. It just happens. And so, you know, and then what we do is if we really want it, we will go to the manager and go, just, hey, FYI, you know, this is going on. Not a great practice. You don't want to do it too often, but if you have to do it, you have to do it. So library is another great resource. Also, if you're doing research to find out who all the libraries are, all the supervisors are, all the music editors are, there's a thing that's normally out here called the Film and TV Music Guide, which you can buy both online and a hard copy, and it's updated probably once or twice a year, I think, and it has every player in it. So if you want to do your own research and do your own work, it's something to think about.
What is the perfectly formatted email that you would receive, and like what do the subject lines say? What content would I write if I'm sending you that email and you've opened it up? What's the perfect email look like to you? What attachments, so forth?
That's going to be different for everybody. For me, as short as possible.
Okay.
If it's like 3 sentences, I know who you are, where you're from, what kind of music you have. If it's multiple artists, that's fine. Just say I have, you know, various stuff. For me, I actually don't like a couple songs. I just want full albums because what if the 2 songs you chose are the 2 songs I hate, but I love the other 8 songs you have? So I would just download link, you know, and make sure it doesn't expire too soon because I probably won't get to it for like 2 months. But, you know, subject line, don't ever put follow-up, first of all, or checking in. Those 2 are like immediately, I'm like, next.
No nos.
But, you know, something funny or something succinct or whatever, it's fine with me as long as it's just not boring. And because think about, like, we all get so many emails, you know, like if they all look the same, we're just going to pass over all of them until we have time. So just keep it short and sweet. I personally like to know where artists are from because I kind of categorize that way. You know, and if something's a cover in the link that you have or there's samples, just let me know that kind of information, but just keep it really short. I don't want pictures. I don't want press kits. I don't want to know, you know, like so-and-so gave you 4 stars, because to me, I only care if my project would give you 4 stars, you know, so just keep it short.